Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Tuesday, April 8th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Marlowe.
Present.
Commissioner Connolly.
Here.
Commissioner Roden.
Here.
Commissioner Christensen.
Here.
Commissioner Neal.
Here.
Commissioner Kogler. Chairperson Covarrubias.
Here.
So the record will reflect that Commissioner Kogler's absent. He did let us know ahead of time that he wasn't going to be able to make it tonight.
Got it. Thank you for that. Staff introductions, please.
Marcy Reynoso and Ashley Peterson, Administrative Assistants.
Warren Fraze, Community Development Director.
Darcy Delgado, Associate Planner.
Darren Nash, City Planner.
This is Andrew Fausto from the City Attorney's Office.
Thank you for that. Okay, moving on to item E, any general public comments regarding matters not on the agenda? Hearing none. Are there any agenda items proposed to be tabled or rescheduled?
There are none.
There are none. Okay, let's move on then to the public hearing portion. Item G, staff report for the Olson South Chandler Specific Plan Planning Area 2. Sounds like we've got a vesting tentative track.
Yes, thank you, Chairperson and members of the Planning Commission. Darcy Delgado presenting the staff report this evening. So this is a request to establish a 126-unit condominium map within Planning Area 2 of the Olson South Chandler Ranch Specific Plan. All right, so here we have on the screen the boundaries and the specific plan itself, which was laid out and approved in 2020. So as you may recall, this is 358 acres that encompass the entire specific plan area. We are just focusing on planning area 2, which I'll delineate on the next screen. And this entire specific plan is entitled for 1,293 residential units. All right, so here we can see planning area 2, which has frontage along Fontana. So planning area 1 is Sunrise Villas, if you're familiar with that affordable housing project, just to get your bearings. So this is a residential multifamily land use designation. So when the specific plan was originally approved, there was a vesting tentative tract map that encompassed planning area 2. So that was tract map 3153. It was originally approved for 108 condominium units. And so this request is to approve a different map, which would increase the density to 126 condominium units via a density transfer. And so in order to get that entitlement, the applicant has to come back through Planning Commission and show that they're demonstrating compliance with the original specific plan for planning area 2. So that's why we're here tonight. As I mentioned, there is a density transfer associated with this request. So the specific plan was laid out to allow density transfers from one planning area to another, as long as the entire specific plan did not exceed the 1,293 residential units. And so here we have the original specific plan allocation. That was a resolution from 2020. Since 2020, there has been one other density transfer in 2022, and that was for planning area to increase planning area 8 by 13 units, and those were taken from planning area 10. So then this application is requesting a different density transfer, which is allowed and consistent with the specific plan. As you can see, the final number is still remaining at 1,293, which I know it's hard to see on the screen. You might look at the screen in front of you. I have highlighted the two planning areas that we're looking at tonight. So you'll see that there would be, 18 fewer in planning area 10A, and then an increase of 18 units in planning area 2. All right, so just wanted to talk a little bit about the changes that came about since vesting tentative tract map 3153 was originally approved, and that's shown on the left side of the screen, and it's outlined in that kind of yellow-orange color. And then the new map is vesting tentative tract map 3227, which is outlined in the blue color. So as I said, the original map accounted for 108 condominium units. And this map has 126 condominium units. Really, the key things that had changed from one map to the other is you'll notice that this road has been eliminated. It's road HH. And so you do see it in the first portion of the new map, but then it doesn't go all the way through to road T. As part of the tentative tract map, the applicant is also requesting for street names to be approved. And so you'll see in your agenda packet, there are a list of street names. Those have gone through the normal process. Street names aren't always handled this early. Sometimes they'll come back later, once the applicant knows, what street names they want to go with. But at this time, they have a list, and so that's included as part of the resolution for the tentative map. Some other key features that had changed with the increase in density is the applicant did have to go from using individual trash bins for each town or for each condominium unit to having communal trash enclosures spaced throughout the site. And so those are shown much better in the landscape plan, actually, and I don't think I have it in this PowerPoint, but it is in your agenda packet. Additionally, they had to provide more parking, which I think I have on the next slide. Here we go. So they were required to provide additional parking, which they have been able to meet. Their parking requirement is 278 spaces, and they are able to provide 290 spaces. Each condominium unit has 2 covered parking spaces in a garage, and then their guest parking is on the road. Gosh, I'm going to forget the name of it. I think it's Cask, but it's on the main road, which is allowed again by the specific plan. Guest parking can be within 200 feet of a site and still count. So you can see their overall site plan. They have a range of different plans and configurations, ranging from 3. I think it's as small as 3 units. 3 condos making up an entire building, up to, I want to say it's 6 or 7 units. We do have the architect here who's going to be diving a little bit more into the architecture, I think, which is, I'm not quite there yet, but we're going to talk more on the architecture here in a moment. I just wanted to show you just the overall site plan and talk a little bit about parking. So this is really just a summary of the project request. So as I said, this is a vesting tentative tract map. So with that, the applicant has provided grading and utility plans that have gone through our vetting process to make sure that it complies with the specific plan. There are a hefty number of conditions of approval tied to the resolution for the map. Again, those are to ensure that it stays consistent with the specific plan. And as I mentioned, there's also the street names which are included in that. We're also looking at the development plan, which is PD 2501, and that's really emphasizing the architecture, the site planning, the landscape and fencing plans, making sure that they also comply with the specific plan. And so that's included with the development plan resolution. And then lastly, because this is a density transfer, we are required to, the Planning Commission would be required to approve a resolution, and you are authorized, so this doesn't have to go to City Council. And so we have a resolution, which is draft resolution C, to authorize the transfer of 18 units from PA10 to PA2. All right, so now we are going to hear from Art. I'm not sure what Art's last name is, but he will introduce himself. And he's going to go through the architecture for the project, and then when he's done with that portion, we're actually going to go back to staff presentation, and I have a few more slides to share with you.
Okay.
Good evening, commissioners. Thanks for having me. My name is Art Alvarado. I'm with KTGY, the architectural firm that's representing the client. In terms of the architecture, we really wanted to kind of keep it simple and kind of stay in the style of the farmhouse. With the different styles that are shown on the, and I don't know how to work this thing, to be honest with you.
That's okay.
Super. Okay.
There we
There you go,
go.
okay. Okay, great. All right. So this project is kind of nestled right kind of in, as she mentioned, in the middle of all these communities. So there's going to be a lot of open space within our project to allow for good architecture and also a lot of movement with pedestrians, as you can tell with this little diagram we showed. So mostly my conversation is going to be centered around architecture, so I'm going to move there quickly. If we can get there. So this is a excerpt basically taken from your guidelines, which is called Modern Farmhouse. So we decided to go with two different styles, Modern Farmhouse, and the other one is more your commercial farmhouse. And I'll get into the commercial in a little bit because it's really designed for commercial, but we liked the architecture so much that we wanted to use it as well for what we're presenting. But anyways, we kind of list all the items here in terms of the architecture, basically keeping it simple, mainly emphasizing the gable ends, your basic ridges, your 4 and 12 pitches up to your 7, 12 or beyond that. Mainly, like I said, making the steeper pitches on the gable ends, kind of like what's shown here. Showing siding, your trim. In this case, they're showing rake details that project. We wanted to go even a little more than that in terms of being modern. And then your basically exposed truss tails that is shown here. They're also shown your vertically proportioned panels or panes. And then, of course, doing your colored windows and porches and awnings. And that's kind of what we did. So what we did is went to the next step and then kind of took some images of architecture that we really liked that's similar to it. And so we kind of brought these. So I kind of glossed over a little bit of what was in the standards and kind of picked some of those items out in this. We kind of introduced a little bit of a metal awning over just to kind of give it a modern. So this is kind of the modern farmhouse that we show. We're showing some tight rake conditions at the gable ends. We are doing, your entrance, enhanced entrance doors with your glazing. They're 8 foot high. And then, of course, your kind of decorative lighting. Again, this is the style we're emphasizing the vertical batten board in this case. Mostly, we're not doing any horizontal because we want to keep this one different than the other style. As we move into it, I'll explain a little bit. And then we're introducing, of course, or keeping the standing seam roofing at some of the lower roofs. And then we're actually going to lower the pitch a little bit on those lower roofs. Some exposed corbel details at basically cantilevers, and then some kind of wood awnings. So this is what we're doing with the architecture. This is more of a conceptual drawings of what we're doing at the moment. Again, just reemphasizing all those same elements that we just depicted earlier with the roof awnings and the outlookers, the decorative entry doors. You could go on. We are, including recessed windows when there is stucco with the sill. We're doing the metal awnings over certain windows, and then we're doing some of the exposed truss tails, basically at the eaves. And then we're including some fiber cement, and they're going to be thin in this case with this style, not so traditional in a sense because we want to go more modern. So they are a little thinner, and to keep it different than the other style as we go into it, we'll explain. And of course, we're doing the board and bat siding, vertical versus horizontal. And then, of course, we're doing the stand-up roofs, standing seams, and then the composite shingles, as you can see. Let me move on to the next style. The next style was the commercial agrarian, which is in your standards. This is basically excerpts that we pull to kind of go through that list. I won't go into it in detail of it because it's pretty, you've probably seen this many times, but basically it's kind of keeping it simple, I think, as a overall pictures, keeping the form simple, gable ends. In this case, they're doing a little more of the overhangs on the gable ends and as well as the eaves, and still doing the exposed truss tails. But again, it's keeping the roof simple, keeping them pretty straight and simple. Pretty much, and in this case, they're showing some vertical, what do you call it, vertical batten board. We're going to go with the horizontal as I kind of go to the next image. So these are some images that we pulled. Again, in this case, we're showing more horizontal, although there are some images that show the combination of both. But we're trying to stick with this style because, we're limited in terms of having some good images that we could show for form. So these are the ones that stuck out that showed good form, but yet it showed the same material. And mostly, I think for this style, we're going to go with the horizontal. But then we are changing it up a little bit with the any of the railings in this case. I don't think we're really doing any decks in this project, so that wouldn't matter. But we are doing the overhangs. We're going more traditional with the awnings and the outlookers. And again, we're doing the basically the overhangs on the rakes or the barge boards, and then introducing some outlookers there as well. And then, of course, the eaves. So nothing's really different other than we don't show porches, but we do show a lot of those eaves, or I would say, awnings over the entries that are large like that to kind of create that porch. And this is what we're basically introducing. We're basically taking the same language and kind of bringing it into the style of projecting out the rake boards, introducing the outlookers at the gable ends. We're fattening up, in this case, the trim around the windows, just to be more traditional with that, the style of the farmhouse. And I think that's the only major difference other than the horizontal siding. I think for the most part, we're still trying to keep the main gate, the main ridge very simple, and then popping out the architecture. And just to let you know, we tried to do that 360 architecture where we could. We tried to introduce the gables, whether it's on the drive side or the front side. We try to do a lot of undulating with both styles in terms of introducing the gable, but yet keeping that simple main ridge. And that's pretty much sums up this style. Here's a image from the north, kind of like the northeast side, or the actually northwest side in this case, looking into a Paseo with your different styles. In this case, we're showing a different patio fencing, which we haven't really designed it because that's something landscape we'll get into as we move into more of a DD level of design. But we are depicting a different patio fence in this case compared to the other style. That one, I believe, is for more of the modern. Here we're kind of doing the picket fences on this one, which is more the traditional, and so that would be the commercial farmhouse that we're depicting there. And this was taken from the northeast side of the property at the corner of Sherwood and I think T Street. I think they gave it a name now, right? Yeah, Cass. Yeah. Next slide. Kind of the same thing. You're introducing those big, huge overhangs at the entries, with the awnings basically that are very large. They're more of an extended awning. It's not your typical 30-inch. We're trying to go a little further just to kind of create that porch element without bringing down columns and taking over the patios. So all these would have patios in the front, so they would be enclosed with this fencing, so they have privacy. So we didn't want to bring down basically any posts or anything into the space that could be usable by the person who lives there. Now we got a ton of elevations. I'm not sure we want to go through all of them. Again, it's just reiterating the same thing. I think overall we're trying to create that feeling of undulation, massing, simple ridge, gable ends, really emphasizing those elements and making the difference between the styles and the type of materials we use. Kind of a side view again, we're kind of pulling a little bit as much as we can. The other side is kind of the same. This one has a side entry for the plan, and I'll get into the plans here in a little bit so you can tell what the differences are. This is the garage side. This is the other style, which is a commercial farmhouse. Again, it's like I mentioned before, you're creating a more of a overhang on the gable ends with the outlookers above, so it gives it a different look from the other style. So we wanted to, instead of doing all of just one style, and we wanted to keep it in the farmhouse style, so we decided to do those two, just in making it different in the detailness of the materials and the items that we use. The side view, again, we're trying to undulate as much as we can. And this is the rear. Now, I'm going to probably skip over here because these are kind of the same thing. And I'll kind of skip over to the plan. If I could get there. Okay, too far. Where is it going? Am I pushing the right one? Oh, I got to go back this way. There you go. No, I want to go to the first plan. So this is plan one. And this is just a 2-bedroom, 2.5, or actually 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath. As you can tell over here to the green side, that's the front patio. As you enter, you basically got, I'm going to go there because I can't read that up there. I think it's 8 feet by 20 feet, if I'm not mistaken. So I think they're all about that same size. And so it's about 162 square feet, something like that. And it's basically has a patio fencing around it or a picket fence of some sort. Maybe not so traditional, but this is the most traditional out of the two that's shown. And then this is plan 2. So this is again, this is a plan. This is a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, a little different entry downstairs, and then a different type of stairs to get upstairs. So we wanted to vary them. We always wanted to locate the master suite, even all of them for the most part, on the Paseo side or fronting the street, so you have a little more activity where there's more active things going on rather than putting them out on the backside on the driveway aisle. So the main room would be upstairs on the second floor facing the Paseo Street, in this case with the secondaries in the back. Same thing with the patios. Too far. So there is a 3 and a 3X. The only difference between a 3 and 3X is just the other one has no utility cabinets. That's the only difference. This would still be its front entry. When I get to the plan 4 and plan 3 are very similar. The only difference will be the plan 4 has a side entry to face the side streets. If you look at the plan, and I don't want to go all the way back to the plan, but that would allow the buildings to front the sides that are facing streets. So this one, in this case, faces the entry faces the Paseo, and you come in through the front. This is a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath. And this is your plan 3X. As I mentioned, it just has no closet. And this is the plan 4, which looks very similar on the upper floor. But downstairs, it has that side entry that allows you to basically activate the street where we're fronting some sort of street, which allows us to kind of enhance that elevation. We went from 3 colors at the beginning. We had 3 colors. We decided to go with 4 color schemes. And the intent is to go with basically 2 schemes per each style. And I'm thinking we're going to go with the darker colors for the Beast style, which is a commercial farmhouse. That would be scheme 1 and 4. And then for scheme 2 and 3 would go more on the modern, which is more on white, which is one of the standards that mentions it in the specific plan. So so we decided to basically up the colors so you have a little more variety when you visit the site. And that's about it. I don't think you want to look at that thing. But we do provide these enclosures, so we're trying to dress them up as much as we can with some vertical siding and some coverage above, doing some exposed, in this case, it might be metal to look like wood because of the fact they have to be maintained. But that's pretty much it on that one. Then close it out. And that's it. If you have any questions, I can be open to answer.
Awesome. Okay, yeah, if you'd like to probably hold tight just to see if we got any questions. Is there anything more, Darcy?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, Art. All right, so this went through the Development Review Committee back in January of this year, and this gives just kind of a summary of some of the highlights from that meeting. So at the time, DRC was questioning if the increase in density was triggering any need for additional outdoor amenities. So the applicant provided the graphic that I've included on the screen to demonstrate that the specific plan is set up to have shared regional amenities. So I believe that the dashed circles, they represent a 5-minute walk and a 10-minute walk, at least for the first 2, for the radius from PA2 or planning area 2. And so then they also note on the plans, and this is included in the agenda packet, the locations of the farm stand, the pool house, and then 2 of the regional parks for this area. So the applicant is not proposing any additional amenities, but relying on the specific plans vision of having kind of shared regional amenities. So in terms of the environmental determination, as you may remember, there was an EIR prepared for the Olson South Chandler Ranch specific plan. And so the proposed tentative map and development plan would not require additional review under CEQA. No substantial changes are occurring. They are increasing density, but it's not increasing density of, there's a density swap in place, which was all laid out as part of the specific plan. So the request would be for the Planning Commission to find that there are no new significant environmental effects and no need to that we can rely on the existing environmental impact report, that no further environmental review is necessary. And before I get into the options, I just kind of wanted to summarize a couple things. So you may have seen we have 3 draft resolutions. So draft resolution A pertains to the tentative map. There are a lot of conditions tied to this. You may recall with past planning areas as they come through, they may not have been as finished. This project is to the point where we have conditions of approval really set up that this doesn't have to go back to DRC with the architectural review. They're providing more detailed plans, albeit some of it is conceptual. So we don't have the cut sheets for light fixtures. We don't have the method of screening for HVAC equipment. So we have written in conditions of approval. Both planning and then engineering had, I would say, substantial conditions to make sure that the condominium map is, that all the maintenance duties are in place, CCNRs. So all those, you'll see it was several pages really of conditions of approval. But essentially, planning staff would handle any of those specifics. So the architecture, the site planning, it's more finished. And so just keep that in mind. It is written that staff would then make the final, when the building permit would come forward, staff would make sure it's consistent with what you're seeing tonight. If there's a desire for any of it to go back to DRC, just know we can always change the condition of approval. So that would be standard condition number 21 it would be Exhibit B of resolutions A and B. It's kind of the same checklist. All right, so here we go. So the Planning Commission has various options tonight. So as I mentioned, there are 3 resolutions tied to this project, one for the map, one for the development plan, and then one for the density transfer. If the Planning Commission is wanting to make any modifications to these resolutions, you can do so tonight. You can also refer this project back to the DRC or to staff if there's additional analysis that you would like. And then lastly, you can deny the project by adopting findings of denial. Staff is recommending approval of draft resolutions A, B, and C. As I said, we have a hefty list of conditions of approval. We're confident that this, we've vetted this against the specific plan and feel that moving forward that there's enough of the parameters that this is going to end up being a really nice project. So with that concludes staff's presentation. And I think between staff and then the applicant team is also online. We can answer all of your questions.
All right. Great job, Darcy. Thank you very much for a lot of information. All right. So let's go ahead and start with some questions. Who would like to lead us off? Anybody like to lead us off over here? Not seeing any to my right. Yeah?
Pat's got you.
Pat's got me. Commissioner Conley, you want to start us off?
Okay, yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I've got several questions, but some of them may be kind of, I don't know, already answered. So these are multiplex units, I noticed. They're 3 to 7 plex units. So I'm kind of curious what the target is. Or is this for owners or renters? Is it going to be managed for rent, or is it going to be individual homeowners for these units?
That's a good question. I'm sorry. That's a good question. I think I want to allow the client, if he's online, to answer.
We got somebody online, Marcy.
Mike Nagar, would you be able to answer that question? Marcy's going to get queued up.
Yep. Yes, I can. Good evening, members of the commission. My name is Mike Nagar, and I represent Olson Chandler from the very beginning. Darcy, thank you for an excellent presentation. These are for sale. Of course, once they're sold, somebody can rent them, but they're also by condition of the specific plan, meant to also be workforce housing and priced accordingly.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we got some questions here too. With regard to the density swap, I noticed that PA 10 is swapping 18 units. They've already swapped 13 to PA 8. They went from 121 to whatever 8 less than that is, 113. Now they're going down another 13 or 18 to 90, and I don't know what type of document solidifies that. This goes forward to put that into the track maps or the conditions of that property. So that's my question is, have they already agreed to the 13 to PA8? And are they going to agree to the additional 18 to PA2, which this is all coming from PA10?
Sure, yes. So we do have would be the draft resolution C. Exhibit B, I believe, is the email correspondence between property owners agreeing to the transfer. And so we do have a resolution that, if approved, resolution C, it would codify the transfer. So then staff will continue to track, and this is kind of this living, breathing table that you see on the screen. Mm-hmm. We will then be able to track the remaining number of units in PA10. So they are fully aware that they have, they would be losing another 18. They're agreeing to it, amongst property owners. So we'll continue to track it moving forward.
Okay. And just some minor questions. The road names, I'm just kind of curious how they apply to the track map. Will not that it's really a major interest, but it'd be kind of nice to see the names where they're going to be proposed for this track map. More a comment than a question, but that's not presented here as far as I know. So is this going to have solar? That's another question I have. Is there going to be solar as part of this project? Solar panels?
I think everything in California is required
solar.
this next year.
And then an EV outlet for electric cars. And
It depends on the project. If they have amenity, then you would require more. But I think, I don't know the exact ruling on that because it changed a little bit. I think they might require to have maybe 1 or 2 at the most on the site. But everybody in the garages are allowed.
Well, that's what I mean. In the garages, will they have an outlet?
Oh,
in the garage?
that's
level 2
plumbed.
charging.
Yeah, they're going to be plumbed at least to be able to have EV.
Yeah, great. And then finally, I'm kind of curious how the parking works. It looks like the numbers are greater than what's required, and there's 2 and 3 car garages or 2 car garages, but for the most part. And so I can see that each unit has a 2-car garage, and the parking there is sufficient. Where is the guest parking located? Is that on the street?
All right, so let me see if I can. So guest parking will be along these major roads. So I think it stops to about right there. You could just barely see that there's, on the screen, there's the, parallel stalls along the road. And then there's a few more down in this area.
Okay, so I noticed that on those streets, it's like 36 and 38 feet. I assume that's sufficient for that?
Yeah, I had the same concern as you, and it was actually originally designed that way.
Okay.
So the street section was revisited by our engineering department, and it was complies with the original specific plan map that was done at the time.
Where there is no street parking, I assume the 26 feet is wide enough, and I know there's other units like that. Do they paint the curb red, or maybe it's obvious that you don't park on a 26-foot or 24-foot wide street? So, yeah.
Right. Those are all of the other more minor. I don't know if you would quite call it an alley, but they are to serve the garages. So there will be no street parking on those smaller 26-foot wide roads. And so those will, so pretty much all the guest parking you'll see is, where you have the units where the paseo or the front porch is facing the street.
And one final question, it's kind of a minor thing, but with the garages so close to the street, is the grading going to be close so that there's not a big, I don't know what type of curbs there are, but I know Quail Run, it's like impossible to get into their garages. Is it grading such that you can, maybe the applicant can answer that question?
I believe we have Kelly Druce on the line. She might be able to answer that question with Brick Engineering.
Great.
Yeah, thanks. Kelly Juice with Brick Engineering here. We're going to be using like a flush curb, like a 0-inch curb to kind of bound the paving in the alleyways. The alleyways will have like an inverted crown section, so like a valley gutter down the middle to collect drainage. And then what we're using for our design criteria on the driveways, because they are so short, is like a 2% minimum, 10% maximum to get up into the garage. And then the garages will tie directly, obviously, to the alley, so you can drive up into the garage. And then finished floors will typically be similar throughout the plex, 3-plex, 4-plex, 5-plex, with varying things going on with thresholds and potentially steps in the garages and things like that. So it'll be as drivable as we can make it. We know we don't want like a 3% or a 3-foot driveway at 15 or 18%, so you have like a speed bump into your garage. So keeping it as flat as we can, but also facilitating drainage.
Okay, now that you mentioned that, I zoomed in and I see that on the narrow streets, there's a ribbon gutter. I assume that helps keep the pavement from deteriorating, since you said there's an inversion. It's an inverted roadway instead of a crowned roadway. So there'll be a ribbon gutter. But I don't see that on the on-street parking. Will that be a crown roadway instead of a inverted?
Yeah, those major
Okay.
roadways, so Cask and then HH, those will be your normal Crown Street with the standard curb and gutter, 6-inch curb and gutter on the edges. Yeah.
Okay, and I forgive me, I noted there's one other question I have. The patio area is I guess, more to staff. Does the patio areas proposed meet our zoning requirements, or it may not fall under the new zoning requirements, but patio areas are good?
So you're right that these actually would, we would be using the Olson South Chandler Ranch specific plan requirements for the site planning, the patio area. So, this is consistent with the specific plan, and I'm pretty sure that the standards are different than what we have with the new zoning code.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Connolly, thank you, sir. Anybody else on my left? Any questions?
Sure.
Commissioner Roden?
With well, a couple of things. The parking, is there parking also on what's labeled as T Street and then up above as well? Is there any parking along those roads?
So I might see if somebody with the applicant can answer if there's going to be parking, because the owner of PA2 may also own adjacent planning areas, but for this project, it's not required to be on T Street. So we're just focusing on Cask and I think it's just Cask. So does someone from the applicant team, are they able to answer that question? I'm not sure that the ownership owns PA3.
No, PA3 is going, this is Mike Nagar. PA3 is going to be a K. Hovnanian development. Kelly Drews, can you speak to that? Do you recall?
Yeah, T Street is actually a little bit wider than Cask, and we do have parking lane on T Street. And then T Street itself is actually within PA2, technically, I believe, on the from the large lot conveyance map. But it's being separated out on this final map. It'll be its own private right of way. But there is parking there, yes.
Okay, because that's a walk from one end to the other, and I can just see people utilizing it one way or the other. On the there's been 31 taken from Area 10. The latest that we're talking about now is another 18 above the 13 that was in 22. That area that is vacated in Area 10, is it going to be utilized for open space?
Hi, Darren Nash, City Planner. So Planning Area 10 is our town. And our town is currently developed with recorded lots, streets, curbs. It's been that way a long time, and that remains in that current situation. The specific plan, based on the acreage of our town, provide a certain number of density units. The our town owners aren't in the process of developing our town or creating more density units, even though they have the ability through the specific plan. So the owners of our town have have worked with other planning area owners to distribute density units from there. So we don't have a specific plan of what our town development has proposed. We do know that there's existing single-family lots, roads that get to them. There's, with the specific plan, utilities being provided to our town. So we anticipate in the future that those lots will be developable. But they could come in with another plan that is consistent with the specific plan to use up the units. But this time they have many units beyond the existing lots, and they're making the decision to work with the other owners to transfer not a huge amount, but 18 here, 10 before, to other planning areas. So there's not necessarily areas that are now vacant because those aren't there. Those density units have not been designed for our town at this time.
But once they've gone out, they can't come back.
Correct.
Okay. I guess that's my main concern was.
At some point when they come in with the design, they'll have to abide by these tables that are going to be keep track of over these resolutions. As their number reduces, that's the number they're going to have to make sure they comply.
So it's not going to be like all of a sudden they can all add ADUs on the back of them.
So accessory dwelling units are separate from
Got it.
the units of this table. But we are not, this project we're looking at tonight is not designing accessory dwelling units with the floor plans and things that are being presented to you tonight. There isn't really room to add on to these units. Could an owner do what's called a junior ADU or something within existing floor plans? Somebody could, but I have a feeling that because this is a condominium, because it's a homeowners association with CC&Rs, I don't know how the accessory dwelling unit plays into that, but that's not being proposed with this project.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Roden. Commissioner Christensen?
Thank you. Just a couple comments and questions. I'm noted that as part of the DRC meeting, the DRC members were concerned about open space and accessibility and what have you. So that draws my attention to the items that they pointed out nearby the parks that will be going in. And I note that one of the items is the pool house. Is that controlled, and do these people have guaranteed access to the pool house? Is that actually going to get built?
Yes, this is Mike Nagar. The pool house is built now and is complete. And these units, along with PA2, PA3, 4, and 5, all have access to the pool house.
Great. So that would be provided as part of the HOA docs. Okay, wonderful. All right, thanks, Mike. I appreciate that.
You bet.
I think that adds a lot of value to these units. The other item that I noted in looking at the landscape plan, I noticed that there's very minimal turf area. And in fact, I really can only find one particular spot that is noted for turf. And you have some larger areas that are showing green where they're going to have some low-lying, fescue or yucca or things like that. Would the applicant be willing to consider some of those large areas to maybe go turf instead of just having landscaped them out, so people can actually literally maybe have some turf on site and not have to walk away for it? It wouldn't be a tremendous amount. For example, if you look at the space between Road HH and Road ZZ, and if you look at the corners around Road FF and Road CCC and Road GG and there's some areas there where I feel there could be a little bit more turf added in for some of these people to be able to actually touch grass outside their doorway instead of having to walk 5 to 10 minutes, or maybe if they want to take their dog out, what have you.
Yes, this is Mike. Darcy, could you zoom in to what the commissioner referenced real quick? The answer to your question is yes, no problem, as long as our engineers can confirm it doesn't conflict with anything. That's all. Yeah, that's pretty much it. But certainly we can add more turf.
Yeah, I think that would be I'd like to see that as part of the development. Personally, I think that it would enhance your development, and I also think it would allow a little bit more of accessibility for people that are on site that maybe don't want to walk away, especially in, like, say, if it's really cold, they want to take their dog around the corner and let them get on some grass. So I think that's something that we should consider having increased on this design plan.
That would be fine.
That's good for me.
Thank you, Commissioner Christensen. Commissioner Neal?
Sorry. I do have a question based on the engineer's comments. I think she said that as part of the vesting tentative map, Road T would not be part of this project, but if I look at the vesting tentative map, it is included in the outline of the project. So is that just me not hearing correctly, or is the map that we see not the correct map?
There's an There's an underlying large lot that includes Road T within this large lot that we call PA2. And with this development, we're cordoning off Road T. We're calling that a separate lot, separate right-of-way that'll be sucked technically out of PA2. So it's just a matter of where that line was drawn when it came to the large lot conveyance map. But it'll all be HOA maintained with public access easements over it. So
I guess I'm still confused because I don't see that as a separate parcel under the vesting tentative map. Is that not something that should happen if we're going to pull it out of what we're approving today?
can you flip over to the tentative map, the actual tentative map sheet, if you have it in the package there? On
Yes,
the screen anyway.
Give us one moment.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, there you go. So this shows that Road T as being, it's within the larger planning area, the large lot. I forget the letter of it from map 3152, I believe, 3152. So the street lot there, which we're calling lot 5, which it's labeled right under where the road S is labeled there. Lot 5 includes basically the roadways, so Road T, Cask, which we're now calling S, and then Road HH. That's all one big large lot that is being lotted out with this map. So this represents the lotting configuration, the legal lotting configuration. Yeah.
And
so I think there's 5 total lots.
Everything else is part of the condominium map, right?
Yes. Yeah. So we're creating large lot 2, for example, which includes 79 condominium units. So there will be a final map that memorializes and finalizes this lotting layout. So 5 lot tract map, final tract map that will legally create these 5 parcels. And then outside of that would be the condominium map.
Perfect. Thank you. Sorry for my confusion.
No. I appreciate your zest for getting it, very specific here, because that's the way we like to operate too. We need to put the line in the right spot.
Okay, Commissioner Neal, thank you, sir.
I had one follow-up.
Commissioner Christensen.
I had a follow-up question. So in regards to, and I can appreciate Mike's answer, but in regards to, for example, the turf, is there a way to codify that, or would planning need to follow up with that with some criteria that would ensure that we have more of that on site?
Sure. So we could include that as part of the motion. That would be relevant to draft resolution B, which pertains to the development plan. So right now, we have a condition for landscape plans to come back to staff. So we can expand, for there to be additional turf. We should just probably be specific in what it is the Planning Commission is wanting. That way, when staff reviews it, unless the Planning Commission would rather those plans, go back to DRC, which is not uncommon.
Sure. I think I'm comfortable with staff. I just, and I get Mike's response. It's not definitive at this point, but the reality is that I don't see where there's a lot of reasons why engineering would be affected by changing out some of that landscape space to include some more turf area. So I just want to make sure we have that on the record, that we can try and do that through staff. Just as you guys are also going to do the railing at the front patio area through planning, right? Is that correct?
Yes, so there were a number.
I read that as number 21.
Is number 21, yeah. And then on for resolution B, exhibit A would be site-specific conditions of approval. There may have been a few other items for staff to, signage, any light poles, things that aren't, some of those things are very conceptual at this level. So when they come in with their construction documents, we want to make sure that, we're looking at the cut sheets and then comparing it to what's in the specific plan. And as far as design, they have generally, this architectural style, what we're looking for. So those are things that we would look at with the building permit. So there's kind of a variety of conditions, but Exhibit A and B cover the planning criteria.
Okay, and where did I read that on 21? Was that on B? Or is that on?
Let me
apologize.
No worries. So draft resolution B, Exhibit A is site-specific conditions of approval. So then it would be condition number 7. Prior to issuance of a building permit, the following shall be reviewed and approved by staff: overall site landscaping, irrigation, and fencing plans, individual lot landscape and irrigation plans for all front yards, fencing, wall plans, site lighting plans, utility plan, and screening plan. It's not uncommon for HVAC equipment to, at the last second, need to be removed, and we want to make sure that we're able to screen it properly.
Great.
So that's Exhibit A, and then Exhibit B, we call these, standard conditions, and so I kind of just check the box, and then condition number 21 has probably just a few more different things. So again, trash enclosures, HVAC equipment, detailed landscape and fencing plans. So some of it's a redundant, but it's to cover all the bases: lighting plan, signage plan, and then when it says other, see it's site specific, it kind of refers you back and forth. So A and B work together.
Thanks, Darcy. I just couldn't remember where I had seen it, but it was Exhibit B. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That's it for me.
Commissioner Christensen, thank you.
Quick question.
Commissioner Roden.
Thank you. Commissioner Christensen, can you tell me what areas again you wanted to revisit on the turf?
I was just recommending that I felt there was ample room. If you look at the landscape plan exhibit with the overhead, I believe that's what I was looking at. There's only one spot noted for turf in the entire area that I could see. And that's, if you look right in the middle, right off of Road S, that's the only spot that's designated for turf at this time. So my suggestion was there were larger areas around site, for example, in between the units on above Road HH and below Road ZZ, for example, off of Road CCC and Road F, some of those larger corner open space areas, I felt you could have some more, yes, thank you, a few more areas in these different block areas where they have turf and not just inaccessible landscaped areas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Commissioner Connolly, hang on. Did the applicant have a question?
Yeah, this is Mike. Rest assured, I think that's a condition we certainly can comply with. When I was hesitant, it's only because I didn't want to commit to something that may have a conflict with, let's say, a fire standard or a light standard or, something of that nature that may make it prohibitive in some manner. But as long as it is not, we have no problem doing that.
Thank you for that, Mike. Commissioner Connolly, did you have another question?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think it was just touched on recently regarding Exhibit B, talking about trash bins. But before that, I wrote a note to myself, additional comment, if there are trash bins and how they would be shielded from view. So that was, I guess it could be handled under the exhibit conditions of approval, but I'm looking at architectural drawings which help me visualize a little better.
So the trash enclosures are a unique thing because when the original map came forward, back with the specific plan as part of the large lot, the condominium map was going to have individual cans in each of the condos, so you would just have your own bins. And over time, we've had more regulations with additional waste requirements, recycling and organic waste. And so with the increase in density, this project just became infeasible to serve as far as the waste removal. It would just be probably a nightmare. So the applicant worked with our waste manager to come up with a plan that would coincide with waste management and removal. So they've cited the trash enclosures throughout the development, so they're communal, and oriented them in a way where it makes sense for trash to pick them up. So planning staff is not an expert at all in waste removal, so we let them work out those details. And so from an efficiency standpoint, they meet that criteria. And then architecturally, what you see on the screen is the driving force to dress it up a little bit.
Okay, thank you. As a follow-up to that, I'm a little concerned how the individual residents, owners would work with other owners to do their fair share or not do more than their fair share of utilizing a community-type trash bin. Is there you see some potential problem there, or how would that be addressed?
Darcy, can you put this landscape plan up? The landscape plan shows these are standard dumpster enclosures similar to a multifamily complex. So you can see all the white little squares throughout the area there, basically on all the corners. So these are basically a trash enclosure where there will be your standard trash dumpsters, your recycling dumpsters. So this will be similar to what a kind of a multifamily neighborhood would have. So and there's quite a few around. So it looks like they're not a far walk, and lots of different units have the ability to go to their regional enclosure. Go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
No problem. And I might want to add as well that this development will have its own homeowners association that will be a sub-association to the main homeowners association.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I assume that if someone gets misbehaving, they can take it to the another owner could complain that someone's misbehaving and get that addressed. As far as overloading the trash, stuff like that. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Conley. This is Chairperson Covarrubias. Just a quick question. Is there going to be added fencing between the Sunrise development that already exists and this new development? Because they obviously butt up against each other. So there's fencing already there, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's like a chain link type fencing, so it's clear. There's no privacy fencing there?
So there's existing fencing. Why is this not pointing in the right direction? Okay, I'm going to point way to the right. So there is a split rail fence. I believe that's the type of fence. I know there's a fence along the perimeter of Sunrise Villas. Almost positive that it continues to this corner, and then you have the Sunrise Villas fence, and then you also have the basin fence. So there's two fences over there. It's the basin fence, I believe, is a black tubular steel fence, and then the fencing that staff has been provided for the condominium map is specific to like a front yard. So when Art was talking about the paseos, there's the floor plans show that there was like a kind of a front yard fence for those units. That's the extent of the fencing plan. Any additional fencing, if there's something that comes out of once building permit stage, they want to do more fencing in the complex, we would rely on the specific plan to make sure it's consistent. If staff can't find a consistency determination, that's when we start looking at DRC and or planning commission. So if future, and the applicant team might want to add if there's any additional fencing beyond what we've seen with the renderings.
Right. Okay. All right. Hearing none. Curiosity question. I understand that this development is intended to be purchased for sale. In other words, individual owners. I heard a comment, something about making it feasible. I don't want to put words in the applicant's mouth or anything, but I'm trying to figure out. My question is, I'm a buyer. Could I come in and buy a huge cluster of these and then turn around and rent them for whatever amount that I felt fit? I'm just curious in how that's going to be managed, if these are going to be intended to be sold for a specific type of individual income-wise. How is that going to be controlled?
This is Mike. When we did the specific plan and the development agreement, one of the priorities of the city was to create affordable housing. In fact, that was the evolution of Sunrise Villas, where we were able to provide that land for affordable housing. Another criteria just under affordable housing was workforce housing. And the County of San Luis Obispo has a criteria that they update, I believe, once a year as it relates to workforce housing. So that is the entry in relation to being able to purchase. Now, I guess theoretically, I haven't really contemplated if somebody could come in and buy a cluster of homes and rent them out. I don't anticipate that happening. Did you have a further concern of that? Something we can evaluate?
Well, again, I think you nailed it. One of the challenges we have in our community is affordable housing, right? And so if this to me looks like a very attractive development. I like what the farmhouse look. I think it's attractive. If I've got disposable dollars and I want to come in and buy 20 of these units and rent them at top dollar, is that something that I could do if I was looking to purchase the development?
No, because as Mike said, this has a requirement that it be sold to people that make no more than the median workforce income. So if you make median workforce income, you're not going to be able to buy 20.
Got it. So there is going to be a way to monitor that and enforce that.
It's going to be individual buyers that basically are income qualified by the developer.
That's awesome. I love that fact. Thank you for that, Warren. Okay, unless there's any other questions. Oh, Commissioner Roden?
Thank you. Are any of these deed restricted?
No, they won't be deed restricted. So the initial sale will be monitored so that that initial buyer will be income qualified. After that, there's no restrictions on resale.
Okay.
Oh, do I see Commissioner Marlowe?
I'm just curious what the median workforce income is. What would that do? Is that set by the developer or is that an actual number in San Luis Obispo County?
It's a number established by San Luis Obispo County. It's going to set the sale price around $650,000.
And do we know what that income is?
I think it's somewhere in the $100,000 range.
Thanks.
Okay, seeing no other questions, we'll go ahead and refer this to the public, and I will open it up for any public comments. Seeing none in the audience. Marcy, do we have any callers?
No callers.
Okay, thank you for that. We will go ahead and close public comment, bring it back to the commission. I will accept any other comments, questions, or any proposals. Commissioner Christensen?
I move that we approve draft resolution A, approving vesting tentative tract map 3227, subject to site-specific conditions of approval.
I will second. And if I could
yes, sir.
Ask to add add site to the site-specific conditions that staff to work with applicant to increase the number of turf areas where possible. And staff will put that in an appropriate. Is that not the right place?
We're going to add that to condition B, correct?
You were thinking resolution B since the turf would pertain more to the development plan.
Thank you. Sorry.
No, thank you.
So we have a motion for draft resolution A. We have a seconded by Commissioner Neal. Any other? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Christensen?
Aye.
Commissioner Neal?
Aye.
Commissioner Marlowe?
Aye.
Commissioner Connolly?
Aye.
Commissioner Roden?
Aye.
Chairperson Covarrubias?
Aye.
So resolution passes 6-0.
Okay.
Commissioners, this is Mike. Thank you as always. Always a pleasure.
We're not.
Yeah, we're not quite done yet, Mike. But
Got two more, Mike.
I love your confidence, though. I like it. I like it. Yes, Commissioner Neal.
I will now try to move approval of draft resolution B, approving PD 25-01, subject to site conditions of approval, including adding to the site-specific conditions that staff work with applicant to increase the number of turf areas where possible.
Okay, we've got a motion by Commissioner Neal. We got a second by Commissioner Christensen. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Neal?
Aye.
Commissioner Christensen?
Aye.
Commissioner Marlowe?
Aye.
Commissioner Connolly?
Aye.
Commissioner Roden?
Aye.
Chairperson Covarrubias?
Aye.
Motion passes. That's resolution B, 6-0.
I'd like to move that we approve draft resolution C, approving a density transfer of 18 units from PA10 to PA2.
We got a motion by Commissioner Christensen.
I'll second that.
We got a second by Commissioner Marlowe. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Christensen.
Aye.
Commissioner Marlowe.
Aye.
Commissioner Connolly.
Aye.
Commissioner Roden.
Aye.
Commissioner Neal.
Aye.
Chairperson Covarrubias.
Aye.
Resolution C passes on a 6-0 vote.
Perfect. Now you can say it, Mike.
There you go. Thank you, Commission. Always a pleasure working with you.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Thank you, Art. Okay, let's move on then to discussion items. First thing we've got on there is the consent calendar. If there are no questions regarding the consent calendar, I will take a motion, please. Commissioner Marlowe?
I move to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second that.
We got a second by Commissioner Christensen. Can we get a roll call, please? First by Marlowe, second by Christensen.
Commissioner Marlowe.
Aye.
Commissioner Christensen.
Aye.
Commissioner Neal.
Aye.
Commissioner Connolly.
Aye.
Commissioner Roden.
Aye.
Chairperson Covarrubias.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. All right, other reports. Paso Robles Streetscape Ad Hoc Committee.
There is no report tonight on that item.
Okay. Housing Constraints and Opportunities Committee.
So we're working on updates to the bylaws for the Housing Constraints Committee. That'll be on an upcoming council agenda. One of the things is we're going to establish the appointment process and the terms for individual members. So once that is done, we'll probably then take the opportunity to reshuffle some of the appointments at Planning Commission, as well as some of the at-large appointments that the council makes.
Okay. Thank you for that. Any issues with the Development Review Committee rotation schedule? Any scheduling conflicts? Seeing none. Okay. Warren, I did have one quick question. The Niblick Road Complete Sustainable Bike and Pedestrian Committee, is that still meeting this week?
Yes, your meeting is 1:30 on Thursday in the conference room in City Hall.
Got it. Okay. All right. Any other planning commissioner comments? Mr. Marlowe?
Yeah, I'd just say that's a great report by Darcy. I appreciate it. It's always really helpful, and I think that it was a really well-ran meeting, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other comments? Seeing none. Staff comments.
Couple of quick items. So we mentioned the Niblick ad hoc meeting this Thursday. Other items coming up, you have your general plan annual report to the state of California. You'll be reviewing that, I believe, on your next agenda. We have a couple small development projects that are pending, and then you've requested a second workshop to deal with the home occupation issue. So tentatively, we're looking at May 13th for that second workshop, and we'll be making sure that everyone, that was involved in the first meeting, as well as anybody with a potential business license for HOMOC, is aware of that meeting. And then the boys' school project, the public comment period has closed on the EIR, so hopefully you're starting to work your way through that. We still have to work through the development agreement and conditions and staff reports, so we're not sure exactly when a date for hearings would be, probably late summer at the earliest for the Planning Commission, but know that that project is moving forward at this point. And a couple other items just to be aware of. The state of California has issued fire hazard maps for incorporated cities. They've never done that before. Cities are mandated to adopt those in a fairly quick order. We just got our maps. We had a workshop a couple weeks ago to present those to the public, take questions. Those are going to be adopted by the city council in May. Right now, it wouldn't make any changes to construction standards because we don't have any very high hazard zones designated in the city. It's possible, though, that the upcoming building code update that goes into effect in January may change the rules for the high zones. We have a lot of the city designated in the high zone. We won't know until that draft building code's released by the state this summer in terms of whether construction standards are going to have to be modified. So I think it does affect the cost of construction, especially residential construction. And obviously that's a big issue in the community. So I think that's something we'll just have to keep an eye on. And that's probably a discussion that we'll hear more and more about in the community. It also potentially is going to affect insurance rates within the city as well. There are some reorganization changes happening with city staff and City Hall. Right now, if you've been upstairs at City Hall, you've noticed we have a new counter up there. That's the utility billing division. That's water and sewer billing. So they've moved to City Hall. We had that second office over by the train station that was called the Annex. That's being closed down. So utility billing came to City Hall. The rest of administrative services, human resources, finance is going out to Second Wind Way at the airport, and then the Public Works division's out there as well. So we moved a couple things around, and then this chamber is going to get remodeled this summer. New carpeting, wall coverings, audio, video, that sort of thing will be real nice, but it also means the chambers may close down for a couple months. So we're going to be meeting most likely over at the fire department in the EOC. I'm not exactly sure of the timing, but just know that that's coming. And then City Hall is going to get remodeled sometime around the end of the year, which means City Hall, where staff is currently the planning staff, will be relocating on a temporary basis. So there's a lot of reorganization changes, things coming. So just, don't be surprised if, we have a big landing meeting and it's in a weird location. We'll try to coordinate that. So thanks. That concludes staff's report.
Thank you, Warren. Appreciate it. Okay, if there are no other questions or comments, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.